And gentlemen, please give us a moment of your attention and a quiet round of applause for Team MahaDAO and the makers of Arthcoin.
Hey guys, what's up? Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. We are absolutely thrilled to have you guys here with us to discuss your project. Uh, I always begin these sessions with a brief, lighthearted question and answer so that folks can get to know you guys. To start nice and simple, what would you like to tell the community about yourself and your team, Stephen?
Sure. I think the most important piece here, right, is that what MahaDAO and the team and the people and the community are all about, right, is to try and change the world. I think that has to be the number one, important, motivation that we have here. I mean, in crypto, you can make a lot of money, right? And I think there are many instances where you can do things and make a lot of money. But to change the world is a whole different paradigm of itself. And so, what I would love to have people realize is to understand how really simple we are, right? How really, plain and honest a lot of the team members are, but also to note how ambitious or possibly game-changing, the vision and mission for the DAO could be. Keeping in mind that the MahaDAO itself is quite a new project. I think not more than 9 to 10 months old. But hopefully over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, it becomes a global phenomenon, right?
Oh,
So
yes.
we just hope that you guys can see through us and appreciate that to some extent. And obviously, of course, we would love for people to challenge us and ask questions that we can't answer. If you ask us a question that we can't answer, then yeah, we'll give you a bonus or something, some kind of a reward,
That's an
just to make
impressive
this
bounty.
interesting.
Because
Oh yeah, yeah.
most of the projects that come before us aren't willing to challenge us quite so
Really?
openly.
Oh yeah. I'll be honest, and if there is stuff that we really can't answer, I mean, we will just admit it and say, hey, here, take your prize, whatever. But yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out.
Cool. Once again, thank you so much for that challenge. I and the community certainly hope we'll be able to take you up on that.
Mhm.
Uh, okay, so let's get started and get right into it. MahaDAO was released in December of 2020. Are there any IRL in real life applications that you have seen for Arth token or Arth coin since its inception? Can you tell us about any of those?
Sure. So just to give a background or some context to the people who are just joined or who haven't really got to know MahaDAO properly. So MahaDAO is a DAO, right? And it's very similar, you can say, to MakerDAO, right? Where you have a two token system, a governance token, and a stable coin, right? But the difference being is that our stable coin is pegged to a different basket of assets rather than the US dollar. So what's the meaning of that?
Interesting.
As the US dollar depreciates because of inflation and other quantitative easing and other depreciating activities by the US Fed, right? The MahaDAO's Earth is going to be a stable coin that performs better than US dollar inflation. So that's the context, right, for what we're trying to do. Now, to answer your question, what are the use cases of such a currency? Initially, when you create a new currency, especially a stable coin, if it is not pegged to the dollar, if it's pegged to something else, the biggest hurdle you're going to face is adoption, right? You're going to ask, how am I going to get a lot of people using this coin, right? And so to tackle the adoption bit, which then defines the use cases, right? The strategy for the MahaDAO has been to focus on, the crypto and the DeFi side of things, right? So what's the meaning of that? It means that it does not matter if you can buy use Arth, the stable coin, to buy a cup of coffee in the first few days. But what matters is that if you could use it with lending protocols like Compound or DYDX or Aave and whatnot, and use it in the DeFi space. So initially, to grow a currency and bring use cases, you need to focus on a small segment, which is the crypto and DeFi. Once the stablecoin grows to a certain extent, then you can start focusing on let's say buying a cup of coffee with with Arth, or
Absolutely.
using your rent and stuff like that, right? So it's a very difficult challenge to build a new currency, but you start off with focusing on crypto and then moving on to retail and institutions. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very interesting. All right. Arth is the world's first value coin, described as such due to its ability to maintain its purchasing power over time, unlike fiat currencies that erode to inflation. So say the press releases from your team. A lot of people around the wolves of Wall Street would think of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Wax, Trex, Litecoin all as valued coins that help to fight inflation and protect long-term portfolio growth. The language that your guys' team uses, like a timeless store of value preserved across generations, that language makes it sound just like how a lot of people here already feel about Bitcoin and Ethereum. What would make Arth actually better than Bitcoin or Ethereum in that respect?
Yeah, sure. So, Bitcoin and Ethereum are fantastic assets when it comes to, beating inflation, right? And in any investment vehicle, even equities for that matter, anything outside of the dollar, right? So they're fantastic assets for beating inflation. So, typically a lot of people before cryptocurrency, they used to buy gold, right, as a hedge against inflation. So in that regard, Bitcoin and Ethereum are fantastic assets for its inflation-proof properties. But the issue comes in the stability of it, right? Can you actually buy a cup of coffee or a pizza with Bitcoin, right? You could back in the early days of 2011 when the transaction fees were really small and the volatility, I mean, there was still volatility, but it was, people could still buy a cup, a slice of pizza with Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
But the issue is precisely that, merchants cannot use Bitcoin or Ethereum because let's say you did a transaction for $100. In the next day, there's a very good possibility that $100 goes to 90 or 110. So that volatility is too much, for you to actually buy a cup of coffee. So that's why it's, now Bitcoin and Ethereum has become more like a store of value rather than a medium of exchange, So people were like, hey, Bitcoin is going to be the ultimate currency, but really it's really hard to use Bitcoin for that matter. So ours is very simple. It's like an ERC20 token. It is stable, which means that, you can hold your wealth in Arth. It's not going to fluctuate as much as Bitcoin or Ethereum. Even in a Black Friday event, you will still have the assurance that your holdings in Arth is going to be, as secure as say USDC, but at the same time, over the long term, Arth will appreciate a bit more than the US dollar after accounting for inflation. So essentially, what you're trying to compete with is not Bitcoin or Ethereum because these are fantastic assets for store of value. But what Arth is competing with is USDT or USDC or DAI, which are stable coins. Yeah. So I think when we talk about value coin, which is a fantastic new term that the MahaDAO is pushing forward, right? It's basically an alternative to stable coins. So stable coins are stable to the price, whereas value coins are stable to the underlying value or the purchasing power of the asset, right? And that's a really new concept, as you can imagine, but also a concept that is only doable in crypto, which is why the MahaDAO began, right, a few months ago.
Interesting. You say that it's an ERC20 token, and yet I did get a question already about the gasless claims that you guys have. How is it possible that Arth is both a gasless coin and an ERC20 coin. That seems like a contradiction.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can have gasless coins in Ethereum with recent modifications to ERC20. So there's a thing called as permits that let you create signatures in a gasless way and actually process them without the end user paying any gas fees. But the issue with Ethereum obviously is that it costs you $5 to $10 to make such a transaction, right? And that's an issue. However, in the case of these layer 2 blockchains like Binance Smart Chain or the Polygon network or any of the other layer 2 or side chains, right, is very much feasible to have these what you call meta transactions happen with very, very low gas fees, right? So
Interesting.
in the implementation, yes. So in the implementation, in the code already, there is provisions to have gasless transactions. It will not happen on Ethereum because Ethereum is too expensive, but it will happen on the Polygon and the Binance Smart Chains, the layer 2 blockchains, right?
Gotcha.
And so really, Arth, you can think of it as a concept with an implementation on Binance, on implementation on Polygon, on Ethereum, right? So it's going to be there on chains all around, not just on one chain. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So some of these projects that you've mentioned in the last statement and in the green room conversation, like PancakeSwap, have famously liquidity pools and staking and farming as a feature. I saw on your site that you guys are also hoping to have liquidity farms, staking, and farming as features. What would make staking with Arth or Maha better or different than staking on PancakeSwap or any of these other ones?
Yeah, so staking on so when you look at PancakeSwap, SushiSwap, QuickSwap, and all these dexes, right? They give you rewards for providing liquidity onto their DEX, right? For them, liquidity is the number one priority, right? So staking on those platforms will give you rewards in their token, which is great, which is something that we're working with on many different fronts. For example, we're already speaking to the guys from QuickSwap, from Sushi, from Curve, right, to give rewards in their native token for providing liquidity there. Whereas staking on the MahaDAO platform earns you rewards in the governance token, the Maha token. And what's really interesting about receiving rewards in the Maha governance token is that it's a token with a really long vesting schedule. What's the meaning of that? It means that 90% of the Maha token supply is distributed across a period of 10 years. And that's a really, really long vesting schedule, which given the fact that most crypto projects themselves are not more than 3 or 4 years old, right? And so what that means is that there's going to be a lot of scarcity for the Maha token, as time moves forward, and obviously as the Maha ecosystem, like as more and more products are built and more functionality comes into the picture, you will see, of course, the demand for Maha token increase, right? Obviously.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, so the long story short is that, in these PancakeSwaps, QuickSwap, Sushi, Curve, and all these guys, you will get rewards in their native token. In staying with Maha, you will get rewards in Maha. And if you are in the ecosystem, you will have the flexibility to stake wherever you want to go, and also to keep in mind that we are not competing with PancakeSwap. Rather, we are just having a liquidity pool there and getting cake rewards and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. Okay, my next question. Can you please explain how your cross-chain liquidity system is going to work? I looked into it. I'm not fully sure I digested it.
Yeah, sure. So it's really an interesting thing, right? I think when you talk about cross-chain liquidity, it is also a trend in crypto that is becoming more and more prevalent, right?
Absolutely.
In crypto, yeah, exactly. In crypto, you're starting to see a lot of blockchains come out. I mean, obviously, we are familiar with Polygon and Binance Smart Chain, but you're starting to see a lot of projects coming up with their own blockchain, right? Which is really, really interesting as a trend. So, what's happening now is that a lot of these blockchains are developing technologies that will allow you to, have the liquidity of, say, Ethereum onto their chain through what is called as, interoperable liquidity. And I think the guys that have done the most work on this is the guys from Aave, right? And so how it's going to work is very simple. You will have, these bridges that are all interconnected, where you can make a transaction on one chain, but also, tap into the liquidity of other chains as well. So which means that, let's say if Ethereum blockchain has $1 million, say $100 million of liquidity, and Binance chain has $50 million of liquidity. If you wanted to, let's say, buy, certain $10,000 worth of Arth, then it will look into Ethereum, see what is the best price, the best rate. It will look at Binance Smart Chain, see what is the best price and best rate, and kind of combine, the best of both chains to give you the most effective, price for buying and selling. And so that's what the cross-chain liquidity, how it works. But also to keep in mind that this is again a bit ahead in its time, right? Crypto is just getting used to the concept, right, of cross-chain liquidity and stuff like that. It's really, really exciting stuff. But yeah, still a bit, I would say, a few months ahead of its time.
Oh yeah, and I mainly wanted to ask because Binance itself, their creator, their CEO, he's, in my opinion, he's kind of been acting like a goofball on the web and in public. He seems to think he's above like most national governments now. There's some real funny behavior on his part that has resulted in regulators in many countries shutting down access to Binance or finding ways to litigate that. And the
Yeah,
cross-chain liquidity problem for cryptocurrency users is very real because many
yeah,
of us are not actually able to use the Binance bridge. So
yeah,
we can have assets on Binance, but they're essentially stuck in Binance. We can't get them out of there and move them onto Ethereum or another blockchain that we can more easily and in a more decentralized way utilize it. We
yeah.
don't. As an American citizen, for instance, I basically can't access Binance. I have some BNB, I have some Binance tokens, but how
Mhm.
I got them was essentially working my way around the system.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's also more from a risk perspective, right? Now, Binance definitely has contributed a lot to the crypto ecosystem. But let's, for sake of example, assume something goes wrong with Binance and they, decide that, hey, we need to shut down, we need to, block access or do KYC or bring in, some kind of censorship for the Binance Smart Chain, right? In that case, really the risk of all the assets in Binance is at stake, right? So you want to diversify. So if you're kind of tied to one chain, you have the risks of that come with that entire chain. So
Yes.
that's really where the importance of being cross chain kind of comes in. Because if you're not cross chain, then all your risk is attached to that one chain,
Yes.
which can be a
You've got
problem
all
at
your
times.
eggs in one basket at that point.
Yeah, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Exactly.
All right. Moving right along, can you tell us anything about Arth's loan borrowing protocols? I'm really curious about this because I'm a fan of Alchemix. I'm not sure if you're aware of the
Yep.
Alchemix project.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Is Arth similar or perhaps even superior to Alchemix's 0% interest loans that are built on top of like the Aave protocol basically?
Yeah. So I would say that the best comparison is not Alchemix, but rather just your MakerDAO CDP portal. So your MakerDAO or your liquidity protocol, right? Or RAI. So these protocols that let you put down collateral and mint stable coins. So now what Alchemix does is really cool. but essentially what the protocol is similar to is MakerDAO or Liquidity for that matter. So the difference is that the way it works is quite simple. You put down your ETH or your BTC or your crypto collateral, and against that, at an under collateralized ratio, you mint Arth, right? So you put down, let's say, $100, and you're able to mint down $100 of ETH, and you're able to mint $50 of Arth, right?
Wow.
And so what that
Okay,
lets
that's
you
wild.
do, yeah, it's not like Alchemix where you can take a loan that loan is sort of the collateral is then put into Aave or Compound, and it's earning yield to pay
Yeah.
itself back, which is really cool, by the way. There's a very good possibility that in the future such kind of it's a similar use case might come for the Arth stablecoin. But in this case, it is more similar to MakerDAO. And really, what why a lot of people use MakerDAO is quite simple. They primarily put their ETH down as collateral, mint DAI, and sell the DAI for more ETH, effectively going long on leverage long on the ETH. So it is the reason why we use the word loan is because a loan is a much easier to understand concept than a CDP. Like when you try to explain us what is a CDP to a person, like I see the person, is going to be a challenge, right? Whereas if
Yeah.
you say, hey, this is a loan, you put down your collateral, you can take a loan in Arth. It's simple and easy to understand, and yeah, that's how it is.
So Arth is more transactory. You're really hoping people are going to transact with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, as any stable coin would want, right? I mean, the most important thing for a stable coin is liquidity and volume, right? That's how you measure the performance of a stable coin, right? And so in the case of Arth, of course, we need to find many different ways to get people to trade, add liquidity, and sort of grow the ecosystem, right? As yes, more growth and liquidity comes into the picture, yeah, you will see the entire ecosystem kind of moonshotting from there. But yeah, that's like one of the important metrics for Arth and MahaDAO success.
In documentation, you say that it's supposed to hold purchasing power over time. But my interpretation of stable coins is that they can, at least as far as the fiat dollar holding its value, so will stable coins. So let's assume for a moment, just for the sake of argument, that we live in a world where the dollar, the yuan, the euro, the yen, all of the very big and governing fiat currencies effectively become irrelevant. What makes Arth better than USDT, USDC, or these other stablecoins for transacting?
Yeah, so very simple. I think the easiest way to explain this is that buying Arth today not only keeps it stable at at the current price of $2, but by the end of next year, that $2 will slowly appreciate to $2.2, right? Which means Arth has a chance of remaining stable, very very stable to the target price, but also appreciating, right, against the dollar. So that's really cool because if I'm holding, yes, like $1 or $2, my purchasing power of it kind of gets diminished because of inflation, quantitative easing, and all that jazz, right?
Oh, yeah.
But holding Arth itself would, not only, give me some kind of a stable sort of value, which means if I have a shit coin I want to sell, I might as well sell it for Arth instead of USDC because I not only get stability, but I will also get the, appreciative properties of it, right? And so that is that's why Arth would be a better alternative to the stable coins out there.
Fascinating. Okay. Following that question up, Bitcoin and Ethereum are slowly becoming more and more accepted as a form of payment by vendors and stores and businesses around the world. And I imagine that if Vitalik and friends can get the gas fee problem under control with Ethereum 2.0, then transacting with Ethereum and things on the Ethereum blockchain will become even more of a cinch than they already are, which they're easy to do, but it's expensive. What are the big hurdles that you expect to face as far as encouraging wide adoption of Arth as a means of payment?
Yeah. So, sure. So to give context, yes, Arth is a totally new stable coin out there, and you want to try and get adoption in as many places as possible, and that determines the success of the project, right? And the strategy is really simple. You focus on DeFi first, right? And so, what's the meaning of that? You get Arth to be used in places like Aave, Compound, Yearn, specifically for DeFi use cases, right? And I think a good example of a project that is focusing a lot on DeFi is Frax, Frax protocol, right? Frax Finance. So essentially, what that means is that you focus on getting people to trade on UniSwap, SushiSwap, do arbitrage, do yield farming, and so on and so forth, right? Once the liquidity reaches a certain level, let's say $1 billion or so, then it becomes easy for you to get merchants to accept your stablecoin, and so then you will see the likelihood of people accepting Arth to buy a cup of coffee, right? Now, in terms of getting it to be used by people, what's really cool that the MahaDAO is doing is that the DAO is actually incubating projects. And the really cool thing about a DAO incubating a project is that it allows us to really expand the use cases at a much faster rate. So one of the incubating projects, the first one in fact, is this one called as Scallop, which is a fantastic project that is in its baby steps right now. It has acquired all the legal licenses to run a mini bank. And essentially what that means is that, in a few months' time, you're going to have bank accounts and credit cards that will, allow you to load it up with Arthcoins and then spend it anywhere across 180 different countries. So, there are a lot of things that you can do for adoption. And of course, the stuff that is happening with Ethereum and scaling and so on makes it better. In terms of the speed of transactions and stuff like that. But besides that, you still have a lot of work to do in terms of getting a credit card, right? Getting a bank account or getting merchants to accept it, right? I mean, the vision hopefully is that one day a nation would accept Arth as one of the reserve currencies, right? That's the vision that we hope to achieve as a DAO together. So it's a long journey, obviously, starting from, as you can see, very baby steps, but it's a very achievable goal because the things that you need to do are quite clear,
Absolutely, and every journey begins with a single step. Like everyone starts somewhere, and I for one am always looking for improved stablecoins because I like DAI and MakerDAO. But I find it's alone fluctuating a bit too much for my liking. And I'm no fan of Coinbase, so USDC in the circle is out. So Arth is starting to sound pretty good to me.
The goal is that if you want to sell your shitcoins, right, you might as well do it in Arth than USDC because it's not only going to be stable and protect your wealth, but it'll also appreciate over time.
Yes.
If you hold your wealth in USDT or USDC, this year itself we have like a 5% inflation rate. So unless you're staking it on Compound or something, you're not going to be protecting yourself from inflation, which is like you're losing money just by holding USDC. So, that's what Arth is trying to do, is that you can hold Arth and not worry about losing your value over time.
Even MakerDAO and
Mhm.
Alchemix as loan borrowers, as facilitators of interest-free loans in some ways, both of those protocols I have watched get wrecked, as we say, by bot
Mhm.
traders and malicious actors attempting to game the system. Does MahaDAO have any built-in systems for handling attempts by whales and botters to manipulate either the DAO or the price of Arth?
Sure. So manipulating the price of Arth is a very serious thing, and a lot of it has to do with oracles, right? So if you look at MakerDAO, even in MakerDAO, there's a lot of controversy around the DAI oracles for ETH and the other collateral types, because essentially, if you're able to control the oracles, you can make profits by liquidating people. So there's a lot of controversy on the security bit by how do you prevent whales and these mafias to sort of prevent and try and hurt or damage the system, right? So for that note, there are a couple of things that the MahaDAO has done. The first one is that it is creating a governance system where to make changes to the protocol or to the ecosystem, you need to lock your governance tokens for a certain period of time. This certain period of time can range anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 years, right? And the longer you stake, the more governance power you have. And so what that does is that it kind of affects, it kind of, removes the possibility or makes it very expensive for a guy to, buy a ton of the governance token, manipulate the system and sell it off, because he would essentially have to lock his governance tokens for at least 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And so that vote locking is what you call it. Is one of the layers of protection that that the MahaDAO has put in place against whales. And there are a lot of other small nitty-gritty things that it will take like ages for me to explain. But essentially, the objective has been that, hey, this is to be a project for the people, by the people, where every person has a right to make some kind of a difference, right? Then we have to figure out ways built into the protocol level to prevent whale manipulation, bot manipulation, and so on and so forth.
Awesome. With that question and answer, that concludes the initial interview portion of the AMA. I sincerely hope everybody's enjoying the program so far. I know we are. I will now be moving towards audience questions,
Oh,
starting
I mean,
with...
that's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, we will now go with the audience, starting with Forg, or Frog, my dear friend from Russia, who asks, how are you going to cover fees for power consumption if there's no gas fees on Arth?
Yeah, sure. So, so this when you talk about power consumption, you are referring to possibly mining a blockchain, and so in our sense, we are based on Ethereum, Polygon, and the other chains, and so the transaction fee or the mining fee, the electricity fee is paid by the miners, right? So, however, in the gasless wallet, you are paying a certain portion of your transaction in Arth as a transaction fee. So the transaction fee is more easy to understand for a lay user. Like if I were to use my MasterCard, right? There's, I don't know, a processing fee charged by the MasterCard network, right? So there is that fee, which makes sense to a lay user when he or she is using Arth, right? But when you talk about, oh, I need ETH or I need Polygon or Matic or BNB tokens to pay for gas, then to pay for pay my rent or something like that, to pay for gas, then you kind of lose the user, right? The lay users. So to summarize, there is a transaction fee which is charged in Arth. It's like maybe 0.01% or something like that, and that is more than enough to cover the the mining fee of or the electricity cost for the miners. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I started accidentally with questions near the bottom. I should have started near the top. I apologize to the audience. Korata asks, considering the loans and stability pool are ways to leverage asset value, how is
Yeah.
Arth going to fight the big surges of demand by whales versus possible high rates of loans? Will it build its own reserve to back it up, like, for example, US dollar Tether did?
hmm Yeah. So, the really interesting thing here is that, a lot of the algo coins, right, algorithmic stable coins, suffer this kind of issues, right, where it is very easy to manipulate it by whales, and the reason why is because it's actually quite cheap to do those kinds of manipulation, right? Whereas in the case of MahaDAO, to actually mint Arthcoins, you need to put down collateral, right? And putting down collateral is not as easy as it sounds, right? So essentially, to manipulate the system, you always need to put at least 110% collateral. And further, there are a lot of built-in mechanisms in the protocol that will trigger if the system is at risk, right? I'll give you an example. If the total collateral ratio of Arth falls below 150%, then there is this thing called as recovery mode that gets triggered and has like a bunch of different security conditions in place. So long story short, right, is that it's actually quite expensive to attack the system, and also there are measures to kept in place to protect the system if it is at risk. So yeah, this is what is in place.
Excellent. All right, moving right along. Our next question from Strange Wolverine. Arth will be immune to inflation through stability. How is Arth different or better than USDT or XDAI? We kind of covered that, but if you want to cover that again for new people who...
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? I mean, sure. So it's really simple. US dollar is gonna, let's say one cup of coffee costs you $5 today. 10 years down the line, that same cup of coffee is gonna cost you, $10 or $10 or $11 because of inflation, quantitative easing, and all that stuff, right? Whereas with Arth, let's say if one Arth costs you one cup of coffee today, 10 years down the line, it is still going to cost you the same amount, one Arth as well. So it's not going to, your purchasing power does not change by holding Arth. That's the main difference.
Okay. Blue Dragon AO asks, people are kind of resistant to adopt new stablecoins, and I would actually second that based on personal experience in the community. Do you, Team MahaDAO, have any strategy to convince the skeptic to adopt your new stablecoin?
Yeah, and it's a fantastic question because, really, adoption is one of the biggest challenges for any project out there, right? So the strategy is quite simple. You focus on DeFi first, right? Because growing in DeFi is a lot more easier and simpler than it sounds, right? It's you can easily, let's say for example, integrate with SushiSwap or QuickSwap or Pancake and the likes, to get more liquidity, more volume and such, right? So the strategy is very simple. First, focus on liquidity and market cap. Once you reach a certain level, which is in our target, it is like $1 billion. So once you reach $1 billion in market cap, then for you to, let's say, convince a small brick and mortar store to say, hey, look, use this currency, accept this currency, you will always find liquidity, you can always buy and sell, and so on and so forth. It becomes an easier proposition. But until we have that, it'll be definitely a hard task to tackle, right? So the plan is really simple. Focus on DeFi, number one. Once you conquer DeFi, then you can go to retail, merchants, and the likes.
All right. My friend Senior Salem asks, After having visited your site, I liked how transparent you are about your team, but I haven't found any other language besides, I'm assuming, the press releases out there concerning the white paper. Have you guys thought about adding more descriptive layperson language soon?
Uh, that's a really good suggestion. We probably should, because there are people all around the world, who are participating in the MahaDAO. And it's a growth sort of a question, right? How much of a growth spectrum are we in to accommodate or get those translations done? I think, basis the feedback that you've just given, we will definitely, just have the different languages set up. But I think moving forward somewhere in our moving forward as the community grows, we will start to have dedicated communities for let's say Russian, and the other languages and such, Russian, Chinese, and so on and so forth, right?
Yes,
the
first ones that come to my head are, of course, going to be French, Spanish, and Bengali.
Yeah. So yeah, it depends on the growth of the DAO, but I think it definitely appreciate the suggestion, so we will have that in place. Yeah.
Excellent. The enigmatic Mr. V asks, what is the team's jurisdiction and how do you plan to incorporate? If so, what jurisdiction do you plan to incorporate in? And how would you deal with government sanctions and regulations on cryptocurrency?
Yeah, absolutely. So, here's the thing with the DAO, right? You can run a DAO without any jurisdiction or any legal entity, because, really, it's crypto. There's no KYC in crypto usually, right? So, but in terms of like the initial company that we had used, how it started was MahaDAO was a BVI registered company, so a company registered in the British Virgin Islands, and we did a private sale. The only reason for us having a company is to conduct the private sale. But really, a DAO does not need a legal entity or a company to kind of function, right? And so, as moving forward, what's going to happen is that this thing is going to be a totally decentralized, project, right? Decentralized community with token holders voting and deciding what's going to happen next, right? It's not going to be shares of a private company that that decide what's going to happen. Like, the goal is to be completely decentralized, and that's the only way you can build something big, right? You cannot build something big if you are sort of centralized and you have a legal company and stuff like that, right? So so that is the goal, to sort of move towards progressively decentralizing the project. In terms of jurisdictions and regulations, we want to try and direct the community to always kind of listen to what the regulators have to say, and try and be as as lenient, as accepting towards regulations as possible. But we can direct the community. It is not something we can control, because it's a DAO, right? People, like the token holders, decide what they want to do.
Exactly. In that same vein, Hex 303 out of 305 with a rainbow asks, how would you explain what a DAO, or a decentralized autonomous organization, to people who are new to crypto, who may not be aware of Maker?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to take time for sure, but that is one of the important objectives, right? Is that how do you get, if this thing were to be, let's say, a nation of its own, right? And you were to communicate to your citizens that, hey, look, by holding your Maha tokens is effectively like a passport or a share in the entire DAO. That is something that we have been constantly bothered by, right? Which is trying to how do you simplify this so that the dumbest of the dumbest guy gets it, and really, it's just a matter of building good products, right? If you can build a product with good amounts of user experience and people understanding how it works, you are able to communicate even complex ideas to them, right? So to answer your question, there's a big focus on design there's a big focus on user experience with the stuff that is being built, so that even the dumbest guy, I mean, no offense to anybody, right? But the most layman person can understand that, hey, he or she, if I have this much tokens, I can do this and that sort of a thing, you know. So and that's a really cool thing to see, is that maybe 3 years down the line we might see the DAO become an actual country of its own, with people understanding and participating in governance.
Oh, wow.
In this way, right?
That's incredibly ambitious, sir.
Oh, absolutely. And the only way you can achieve that is by being fully decentralized and as such, yeah.
I don't know any other way to have pulled it off, and thanks to the internet and social media for making such a thing possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Skyworms asks, if Arth is a gasless coin, in the long term, is the team planning to release a new platform or wallet to accompany it? And if you could, explain some more about your staking system, its future, and any APY or APR numbers that you can share with us that might be attractive.
Yeah, so actually, first of all, the names, the usernames that you guys have is hilarious. I think it's the most creative usernames I've ever heard in a Discord chat room. Okay, yeah, and so
we have a wonderful community. We love our community here. Brilliant people.
Yeah, fantastic. And amazing names as well. So yeah, so to answer your question, here's what's gonna happen, right? So yes, the team is building, a gasless wallet themselves, but the Maha token has a reward system that gives Maha tokens to people who build in the ecosystem, right? So what's the meaning of that? It means that if a 12-year-old kid makes a gasless wallet for MahaDAO, he or she is eligible for getting Maha rewards or a grant or a bounty for creating such tools, right? And so what that effectively means is that we can the products that get built come not just from the core team themselves, but also from the people as well, and that is something interesting for us to see, is that how do we scale more and more products being built into the ecosystem? And the answer is quite simple, is to give bounties and rewards to those that add sort of some kind of value, right? So even if you're a 12-year-old kid who's coding up a gasless wallet for the MahaDAO, you are very much eligible for getting rewards, because you're helping build the ecosystem.
That's incredible. So you've essentially created a decentralized crowdfunding ecosystem for projects that support both the DAO and the stablecoin.
Absolutely. And this is a project, as mentioned, it has to change the world, right? And the only way to change the world is to build something for the people, by the people, right? Even for example, my governance power, most of it is going to get burnt off, so that even I have, it is not possible for me to, manipulate this DAO, right? So for us to build something really big, it has to be, focused on the people. So rather than, having the core team, which of course the core team is working, building products and doing stuff, having that be the focus, it is instead shifted to the people and giving incentives to those that build stuff, right? And as you build stuff, you will get rewarded, and you not really help the ecosystem grow, but you get like these really healthy bounties that we would give you guys, right? So yeah.
Okay. The next question actually plays perfectly into that. Purse asks, what is the mission and goal of Arth and MahaDAO? How is it different to other projects? And what do you associate the steady growth in your cryptocurrency to? Do you think it's company related or technology related?
Yeah, so the biggest difference between Maha and let's say MakerDAO or some of the other projects is the fact that the Maha token holders have a vision. They have a mission to create a society or a country where there is no poverty, there is no discrimination, there is no wealth inequality. So there's a real driving motivation for from the Maha token holders, right? And that's the difference when you look at other projects. There's no real motivation for holding, let's say, a Curve token, Curve Finance token, for example, right? I mean, you can do some bit of governance there, but it's really not, impacting your life in any way or form, right? So what MahaDAO is trying to say is that, hey, we want to build stuff that change people's lives, and the token holders are actively engaged in not only driving the narrative, but also building that narrative as well. So again, coming back to the fact that this is a people's coin and a people's project, and if you look at projects that have been decentralized to this nature, they have been incredibly successful. Like I think Bitcoin is the best example. Of something that has been decentralized and successful in achieving its motives. So you can say that the difference is that there is an actual vision or a mission in not only just holding the coin, but also participating in where this project can go in the future. And it's not just to be a stable coin; it is to solve the wealth inequality problem, right? Make sure that people have live happy lives and stuff like that, right? So yeah, it's a very emotional journey, I would say. And if you want to contribute or be a part of the journey, you're more than welcome to participate. And just the very fact that you're attending and hearing this AMA is like the first step towards being a part of this vision.
Absolutely. Blue Dragon AO back again to ask, when do you guys plan on getting audited? That's a good one.
Oh man, we have already quite a few audits, and they're quite expensive because
I guess,
audits,
yes.
audits yeah. So we spend more than $300,000, like personally, which is way too much for audits. So we've spent quite a bit of cash on audits. I think so far we have done 5 audits so far. But the goal is to continuously have audits done, and continuously have bug bounties in place, because even an audit from the best firm does not guarantee that your system is secure, right? So we've already done, I think, 4 to 5 different audits, and we'll continue to do more audits and conduct bug bounties as well.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's a big hole in the pocket. So yeah.
Excellent. All right, my man Sergeant 13 Bravo asks, in a world where all things financial are tied to the value of the dollar, how do you beat the thing that inherently gives your coin value? Where do you think the value comes from to be able to beat or outpace the dollar? You cannot keep purchasing power or beat the dollar when you are inherently tied to it to achieve value. If people are not buying in fiat, you have no value, in my humble opinion. So you're inherently tied to that value for purchasing power. What would you say to Sergeant 13 Bravo that might change his mind on that?
Yeah, it's fantastic username and an amazing question, obviously, right? And so it's really simple, The biggest problem right now is that we are measuring things in dollars, right? And that's because we're so used to it, right? We're measuring things in dollars, we're measuring things in pounds, we're measuring things in euros, right? It's because we've grown up with these fiat currencies, right? But once you kind of step out of it, then you realize that, okay, US dollar is just another asset, And so what we're trying to say is that, let's create a new kind of asset that has different properties. And the properties are basically that, one, it is stable, which means that there's not going to be a huge price fluctuation even in Black Friday events. And second is that it performs better than fiat currencies after accounting for inflation, right? Now, people will still measure things in dollars because the US dollar is one of the biggest currencies out there.
It's the king daddy right now.
It's the king daddy, absolutely. And that's because it is just a perspective, right? You're so used to measuring your cup of coffee in dollars, paying your rent in dollars, right? But really, as you might have seen, paying your rent has become more and more expensive because quantitative easing, inflation, money printing, and all of that stuff, right? It will take time. It will take time, exactly like how accepting Bitcoin as a unit of currency is getting on to people, right? When you use Arth in the credit cards, right, to pay for a cup of coffee, yes, the merchant is showing you, your bill or your invoice in dollars, but the underlying payment or the conversion happens as you make the purchase, right? Um, and the second thing is the backing, right? So when you look at Arth, the backing of Arth is a mix of about 10 to 12 different assets, and it's kind of done like this, right? So 80% of Arth is backed by fiat currencies. So that's like your US dollar, Canadian dollar, Swiss franc, euro, pound, so on and so forth. 15% is backed by gold, and 5% is backed by Bitcoin. And so what happens is that, the US dollar piece of Arth is very, very small. I think 15% of Arth is backed by US dollar. And because it is so diversified, you kind of get, the best of all the worlds while minimizing the risk of, one currency, failing, right? And that's, kind of how we've designed this, right? 80% fiat, 20% gold and Bitcoin.
Fascinating. Darth Anonymous 1 asks, do you have an alternative currency that isn't stable for people who might be looking to make money on the volatility in the long term? I think the answer to that is you do, and it's your governance token, right?
Yeah, the governance token, absolutely. So the governance token is highly speculative. The role of the governance token is quite simple. It is, one token equals one vote, right, in the system. So if you have the governance token, then yeah, there can be a very good chance that the price can go up, can go down, sideways, whatever. But of course, the stable coin has to be always constant to the target price. So yeah, if you're looking at something volatile, that's where the governance token comes into the play. And the governance token is also really cool because it's a token that has a vision and mission towards it as well. So yeah.
Awesome. That's honestly really exciting. Just everything's really exciting when I hear about DAOs, new DAOs.
Oh yeah, DAOs are like DAOs are soon gonna be the rage. I think today, even after the first DAO, which was a few years ago, like DAOs still have a long way to go, and MahaDAO also is in that journey, right? It still has a long way to go. A lot of growth potential is there. But I would say the one main differentiator is that we want MahaDAO has to be a DAO for the people, by the people, and with a vision and mission to really create a better society, change the world, create a better society, stop wealth inequality, so on and so forth. Yeah.
All right. I have a cunning plan, asks. In general.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I love that name. When are you looking for people to code for smart contracts and such? And what kind of expertise should they have to get started or get hired as a subcontracted decentralized blockchain developer?
Well, it's sure. So it's really quite simple. I mean, the moment you're able to build your stuff, right, just apply for a grant for whatever amount you need. Most likely what's going to happen is that the community would vote on it and approve it, right? And so effectively, you are able to get, your contribution, whatever you've made, right? Rewarded back in Maha token. So it's more of a grant sort of a thing. Because there is no central team, right? There's no like core team that will sort of control the DAO moving forward, right? So yeah, if you build something, or if you're looking to build something, go ahead and build it and start applying for the grant, and then you will kind of get all the funding and support needed to continue to grow whatever it is you're building. So that's what I want this to sort of see, is that this is more like a like a DAO really, because I think if you were to be hired, recruited as a employee, then that's a company, and that's probably not as exciting as a DAO.
Absolutely. We're closing in on my scheduled off time, but I would like to keep asking questions. Would you be willing to sit for overtime and answer more questions from the audience?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
That's
I,
fantastic.
yeah. We should give, I don't know, we should give Maha tokens to the guys that stay. Something like that, something
Oh,
special for for your
we've
community members.
we got crew. We should have crew doing airdrops. If we don't have crew doing airdrops, I'll do a big airdrop at the end of this. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah. So thank you to everybody for tuning in and staying with us through this. We really appreciate it. This is an incredible conversation. I'm loving the hell out of this right now.
Yeah, we should make sure to give, I don't know, at least 10 Maha tokens to all the listeners here. Somehow, if you can get their addresses or something, that will be like awesome.
Absolutely. We can definitely look into possibly doing a form letter for you and for listeners of the show, both currently live and post after it. I can attach such a form to the video on YouTube if you want. That would be cool.
Awesome.
Moving right along, Luminascent drops a comment, says, enjoying watching this while at work. Thank you so much, Luminascent. Luca SP says, maybe we do something like pay people in Maha to translate the white papers into their native language. This is a suggestion follow-up of the question that white papers can get a translation.
That's a fantastic idea. And we're happy to do that. So in fact, Maha has such a huge community budget that really a lot of members who who contribute to the project, they can actually earn. There are a lot of people who have actually contributed to the MahaDAO and actually been financially free because of the Maha community rewards. I mean, that's fantastic to hear as well. So this is a fantastic idea. It'll be great if you can just pop into our Discord server and just say that, hey, let's do this translation thing, and we'll be more than happy and excited to work with you to get these things done.
Oh, very cool. Goo Goo Muck, another great name.
Asks, these names.
He asks he or she asks very simply, use case = incubating other projects? ?
Use case, so use case arrows with multiple directions and with one of the arrows being incubating projects, right? So yeah, I mean the use case. So incubating projects is a tactic that will let us create use cases for Arth that are very hard to achieve otherwise, right? Let's take the real example right now. The first project that we're incubating, which is Scallop, these guys have gotten an FCA license, a European license for issuing bank accounts, and a credit card license across 180 different countries. And this is something that obviously the MahaDAO, a DAO, cannot do, right? This requires a company, with employees, with a CEO, right? And so in that case, we have given grants and sort of, help them get on their feet. So those are use cases that are also really impactful, but it's not the only thing that the project focuses on. The incubations are a way of achieving hard things, but keeping it as a separate project, right? So in terms of use cases, we're going to see a lot of stuff with respect to DeFi integrations. So you will see integrations with Aave, Curve, SushiSwap, Cream Finance, and Yearn, right? So most of the DeFi blue chips for the first 1 year, and after that, then you will start to see use cases propping up in retail. Like you'll see schools, restaurants accepting Arth, and so on and so forth. So incubation is one of the I would say the missions of the DAO, but there are many things that possibly can happen. And also to that note, if you think that there are different tangents or ways that you could help create, give direction. And then it's nothing more than it's as simple as just getting some Maha tokens and then stating your intentions or driving the narrative with the community.
I'd like to just take a moment to apologize to your team member who just got auto-muted by our bot by mistake. Total accident. We'll get him back immediately. Our apologies go out to him for that. Okay, Sticky asks, what kind of risk can we expect from the adoption of Arthcoin?
Yeah, sure. So the biggest risk I feel is of course there's smart contract bugs, right? That's something that it can happen even today. The biggest risk I feel is economic risk, right? And the fact that this is a new concept, right? When you build something new and try to be innovative and disruptive, you're always going to face backlash. You're always going to face criticism. You're always going to face, you're always going to make mistakes as well, And so we've tried our best to make sure that, we minimize, those issues as much as possible. But the very fact that, this is something new and innovative means that this thing can also go down to zero. I mean, I'm not denying that as well. But that is that is sort of the drawback or the thing that you're willing to let go to be a part of something innovative, right? So yeah, I mean, we're literally exploring the unknown, right? It can be very much possible that the community hits, a dead end. It can be very well possible, that the community finds the Chronicles of Narnia. It really goes both ways, because just what is being, trying to tackle, the problem that is trying to be solved is quite, it's quite different. It's challenging. It's not easy, and we're exploring our way forward, right? So yeah, that's what I would say is the biggest risk is uncertainty.
Absolutely. Oh, I see some. I've got a couple great questions coming from Twitch. Let me grab those. Blazeline asks, what do you think of adding in the near future? Your own more centralized exchange platform, but allowing margin trading backed by Arth currency, maybe?
So that's a fantastic idea. The only issue is that, it's not going to be centralized, right? So essentially, the path forward, the short-term strategy, is to make Arth more of a trading and a margin sort of currency, right? So the short-term strategy is to focus on traders, risk takers, DeFi, right? But the long-term strategy is to then become a currency for natural society, right? So you start off with the traders. So margin trading, leverage trading, so on and so forth. But then you end up being a currency, just like our fiat is today.
Oh, very interesting. All right. Also from Twitch, Luju Simple asks, how does Arth plan on fighting its competitors? For example, if suddenly a competitor had a similar concept to MahaDAO and Arth, are there plans in place that might counter such a thing? As we all know, this is a very competitive market.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that's really interesting here is, speed is go to market, right? The speed at which you do things, and of course the community. So, we believe, I mean, I would encourage people to, fork Maha and, do things with it. And in fact, there have been many forks of Maha as well. Some of them are hilarious because, they've been just blatantly copy pasting the designs and just changing the color scheme a bit, So
yeah, there's a lot of that goes on. The last project we talked to, Save the World, told us there was a lot of copy pasting going on of their smart contracts.
Oh yeah. I mean, copy pasting is fine, honestly. The only difference is that is the community, right? You can copy paste the code, but you can't copy paste the community and the people behind it, right? So honestly, I would encourage we would encourage people to make folks and do things, because that's sort of helping grow ideas and ecosystem. In terms of competitiveness, I think really community and the people are something that's going to be very hard to sort of copy, right? And that's one of the things that we really focus on a lot, more than the tech, honestly.
I would say you're on the right track by doing that because
Yeah,
my experiences with this community, it's true. People will come, people will go, but you can't copy paste the whole group. The whole group is a magical concoction of good people coming together to do something amazing.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, things are open source. You can copy the tech. You obviously can't copy the people, but I think it's all towards creating a more vibrant ecosystem. So there's no point censoring or keeping things closed source. Is better to keep things open so that we can attract more talent and encourage more innovation.
Luca SP back to ask, will Arth still fluctuate a little bit in value, like maybe no more than 10 cents, or hang out at $2 and just stay at $2?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the issue is that here again you're measuring in dollars, right? When the dollar itself has its own fluctuations, right? For example, the US dollar itself is being traded against the Chinese yuan, the British pound, and so many other currencies out there, right? So when you think the dollar is your base, right, base currency, then that is the first issue, right? Is that we're trying to detach ourselves from the dollar. Now, obviously, yes, there is a possibility that the currency can fluctuate, but the fluctuations will not be like 10% in one day. It'll probably be like 0.01 or something like that, in a day or in a week or a month or so. So it's not going to fluctuate like crazy as how maybe Bitcoin fluctuates on a daily basis. It's going to be quite stable, but yes, there will be some amount of fluctuation because it is just not pegged to the dollar, right?
Makes sense to me, boss. Even these stable coins that we've got, even the most stable coins anyone's ever seen still fluctuates alongside of the dollar.
Against the dollar, yes. So that's the thing. When we measure against the dollar, yes, things look kind of stable. But because you're trying to detach from the dollar, then it's a whole different story altogether.
All right. Gwyn, GWN, asks, every project has a few downsides to something. Can you name any of the downsides of your project?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the biggest downside is the fact that there's still the chance of a big whale getting into Maha and just hoarding the tokens. Right now it is, I would say, a person can because Maha still has a long way to go. There can be a chance that we find a bad whale, but that risk of whale manipulation is something that which we discussed in the beginning of this AMA, right? That should sort of decrease as the project evolves, right? So I think the most riskiest phase right now is in the early days of the project when it is still maturing. Once, let's say maybe a year from now, right, when the project has enough number of holders, then it would make sense to then the risk of whale manipulation would kind of go away. So yeah, my biggest fear right now is some big guy just buying a whole bunch of Maha tokens and trying to manipulate the system. And obviously, we want to try and reduce or remove that risk altogether.
Very cool. Charlie Klein asks, how will Arth perform arbitrage across multiple volatile currencies?
Oh, that's really cool. It's really simple. If let's say you have ETH Arth and then BTC Arth, and you have ETH BTC, then any fluctuation in a fluctuation on any of these pairs will allow you to do a triangular arbitrage. So you buy ETH, sell it for Arth, buy BTC, and then sell it for ETH again. So there can be a triangular arbitrage that happens amongst these pairs. And in fact, if you look at the transactions that are happening on Arth right now, there are already bots that are actually doing triangular arbitrage across volatile pairs with Arth. So yeah.
Very cool. Darth Anonymous is back. He asks, are you guys concerned about government regulations coming to crypto?
So absolutely right, and the answer to that is to decentralize the project as quickly as possible. I mean, people have tried to regulate Bitcoin for that matter, and try and ban Bitcoin, for example, but they could not, right? Because Bitcoin is so decentralized that it is really impossible to, ban Bitcoin. It's like banning uTorrent. You'll always find ways for people to access it, right? So in that regard, the way we kind of protect ourselves, the best foolproof way of protecting the project from regulators or anything that might hurt it. Regulations are sometimes good, but bad regulations can be hurtful, right? Uh, in that regard, the goal is to decentralize the project as quick as possible. Yeah, and once we achieve that, then I think it's going to be a much harder thing to sort of bring down, right? And yeah, that's the goal.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Wisdom Mods IW asks, what are all the ways to buy and or obtain Arth? And will Arth be added to Discord, presumably to the tip.cc bot, so people can airdrop it and share it?
Yeah, so we at the moment it is implemented on the Polygon chain, right? But you will see implementations on the Binance Smart Chain and on the ETH chain as well. So the Arth availability on Binance Smart Chain and ETH chain will happen sometime in the next 30 days, right? And yes, with respect to the tip CC bot, we're already in touch with them, and they are working with us to have Arth listed on it, so that you can just tip people Arthcoins and also Maha as well, the governance token.
All right, and I'm going to interrupt the audience portion for a second to indulge my dear friend AJ, who asks if we could have the team to elaborate a tiny bit more on the synthetic backing of the basket of assets for the Arth stablecoin, presumably for anyone who is just joining us.
Sure. So it's to give some context, right? So Arth is a stable coin. It is backed by actual collateral, but it is pegged not to the dollar, but to a basket of assets, right? And this basket of assets consists of gold, Bitcoin, US dollar, euro, so on and so forth. So you get the best of gold, Bitcoin, and fiat, right? The best of all the three worlds. Now, immediately when you say that, hey, Arth is backed by gold, Bitcoin, US dollar, and such, you will think that, hey, there's a reserve of gold somewhere that is giving this backing. But in reality, the way it is implemented is using something called synthetics, right? Which means that you can have the collateral be something else. In this case, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Matic tokens, or whatever. But issue a coin that is pegged to a certain price index, right? Um, so the best example is how if you were to take a loan, you can from a bank, right? You take the loan in dollars, but the collateral you put in is something like your house maybe, or or an asset, right? So in Arth, the collateral or the backing is cryptocurrency collateral, ETH, Bitcoin, Matic, and so on and so forth. The pegging, the price or the target price is something else. The target price is a basket of assets, and that's the really cool thing. That's how we're able to get the best of gold, get the best of fiat, get the best of Bitcoin in just one currency. So that's how
Excellent.
synthetics works. Yeah.
That's great. Let me see where I am on my list. There we go. Is Arth globally accepted, or is there a bridge token between the networks from Control R?
So Arth is still at its nascent stages, right? So I would say it will still take time for Arth to be, quote unquote, globally accepted, because globally accepted means, I would say maybe something as big as the Mastercard network, where you can buy a cup of coffee anywhere in the world, or at least majority of the countries would accept Arth as a payment method, right? So Arth is still in its infancy stages, right? But the goal obviously is to create something big, right? Create something that actually can be used by many people. So yeah, it's going to take some time before Arth is globally accepted. In terms of accessibility, right now you can take Arth from the from Ethereum, Polygon, and eventually Binance Smart Chain as well. But yeah, for retail, it'll take some time.
Absolutely. Uh, Wolfer in a planet with the rainbow. How Arth remains stable and maintains
Uh,
value if the market crashes.
yeah, sure. So, this is very similar to DAI, okay? Very similar to liquidity, where if if the market crashes, then what happens is people get liquidated, right? Just like how in DAI or USDC there is liquidations that sorry, DAI or liquidity. These are two protocols that use collateral to mint their stablecoin, right? There is liquidations that happen. So yeah, that's how we're able to make sure that there is always the backing and peg being maintained if there is a market crash.
Cool. Hot Rod asks, what are the plans to make Arth accessible and understandable to non-crypto / general public?
Yeah, sure. So this is in fact one of the biggest questions for people who are just learning about MahaDAO and trying to understand, hey, is MahaDAO worth it or so, right? And obviously, it would be worth it the moment the moment the stablecoin itself is accepted in many different places, right? So to answer this, right, the focus is the plan of action is a very long-term plan of action, right? You start off with focusing on DeFi and crypto, and getting adoption there. And getting adoption in DeFi and crypto is quite easy. It's much easier than it sounds, right? Once you have that adoption in place, then yes, then the real work of getting the layman educated starts, right? So this means things like getting, conducting meetups, events, having press releases, all that sort of, retail educational stuff that people would normally do would start to take place then. So I would say it would be a year from now when we start to focus when the DAO starts to focus on retail adoption. But until then, yeah, it's just going to stay crypto only, and yeah, focus on getting the crypto guys on board.
All right, folks,
yeah,
we're
just
closing in. We are closing in on
Yeah.
30 minutes over time. I'm going to try to
Oh,
squeeze
really?
in a
Really?
couple more questions, and then we'll get to the selecting of the winners.
Yeah.
Matt195, a fan of Pussy and Rook, asks, are there requirements to liquidate a loan, and can it be done when recovery mode is enabled?
Yeah, so there is a collateral ratio, a minimum collateral ratio of 110%. So if a loan goes below that collateral ratio, then you can liquidate it, and even if recovery mode is on. So the magic number is 110 collateral ratio.
Okay, excellent. Aurum asks, if everything goes according to plan, what are your plans for the more distant future of Arth and the MahaDAO? Are there pioneering ideas in the making that you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a vision to this, right? And it's a very ambitious vision, which is to try and create a world where there is no discrimination, no wealth inequality, no racism or any isms, right? It's to create a society or an ecosystem where happiness is the number one currency, right? To
Happiness.
reach that,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. That's amazing.
So, yeah, so that is the goal, right? But to kind of reach that goal, you have to take baby steps, And so the first step is to create a currency. Once you create a currency, the second step to achieving a society that becomes, decentralized, autonomous, uncorruptible, no wealth inequality, all of that stuff, is to create a decentralized bank. Once you create a decentralized bank, you can facilitate loans, you can support entrepreneurs, you can, create jobs, all that sort of stuff. Once you create a decentralized bank, the next step is to start and form a society, right? And because the MahaDAO's vision is to try and create a better world, right? With starting off with a currency, I think that is the exciting thing to be working for, right? And now, this entire narrative is not something new. It's known to a lot of community members that this is where MahaDAO is going to go. But the issue is that this is a vision that takes maybe, I don't know, 3 years. 3 years is conservative, possibly more, right? To kind of achieve. So, it's just a small step towards reaching that game-changing or groundbreaking society if we can create that, right? And yeah, I mean, I just, for me, it's more about creating something that can change the world, and working with people that can do that. It is not about the money. In fact, if it was about the money, we could have rug pulled this thing ages ago. But we don't care, honestly. I mean, I don't care personally if I go broke, doing this, right? Because it's more important to change the world and create something big, right?
So this is a real passion project, not just for you, but the people on the team.
Absolutely, and we're not doing it for the money. We're doing it for the fact that if you could do this with the society, with the community that is able to support, right, in some way or form, then we are actually on the cusp of really changing the world, right? So, I mean, that is more exciting than I don't know, making $1 million or whatever, whatever is financial goals people might have,
All right, and I am going to give the honor of our final question to Dope. How do you plan on achieving self-sustainability as a project?
Sure. So there's going to be a lot of different tools and processes for a DAO that we will bring into place so that the control from the core team, especially me, right? The control from the core team gets decentralized and completely removed away, right? I want to see that happen because I want to make sure that this is a project where the people have control and they're able to define what they would like to see, right? So there are tools that are being built in place, like a governance portal. There is a lot of there are some payout tools for contributors who contribute in various ways, like giving translations as was discussed here, or helping the community grow, stuff like that, right? And yeah, there are of course definitely a lot of room for improvement. I mean, I'm not saying that we are perfect in many ways, but yeah, if there's a lot of activity and a lot of attention being put into it, so that we can be as autonomous as possible. I think a good example to think of MahaDAO is to think of an ant colony, right? If you look at an ant colony, it's a very effective organization where there's no central ruler, there's no governing ruler, no corruption involved in an ant colony. Every person is doing what he or she does, and they all live together, grow together, right? And that's kind of how we would want this to be, a place where there's no room for corruption, a clear vision, a mission to change the world, right? And taking it from there.
Excellent. All right, and that, for the moment, will conclude the question and answer portion of the show. Thank you, everyone, for participating. There were many questions that were excellent that I did not have a chance to get to.
Oh, man.
Any of those questions that are pinned in this channel, if you would take take any time that you would be willing to donate to us to answer these, we would appreciate it. You can do it in the chat or in any other channel on our Discord, as far as I'm concerned. We are incredibly grateful for you giving us your time and telling us all about this very interesting project that you guys have going on.
Yeah, and let us make sure to give like 10 Maha to every person that's like in this chat. I would love for people to just get their hands on some tokens and do whatever they want.
Oh yeah, no, we are incredibly grateful. We very much appreciate it. I would humbly ask Mr. AJ to come up to the stage and join us here for a moment so that we can commence with the awarding of the half a dozen most superior questions. The team will now deliberate, and we will figure out which ones of you guys asked the finest questions that guided this conversation. As usual, I exempt myself from consideration for this, because I'm here because I love this community, and I'm here to facilitate intellectual conversations and open-minded conversation about cryptocurrency.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Absolutely, you sound great. Thank you for joining us.
Great AMA. Amazing AMA. As usual, you didn't even stutter once, so absolutely amazing. I guess nobody wins the challenge of asking you the question which you couldn't answer.
No, we failed. We gave a really good attempt.
Yep, definitely. So moving on to the questions right now. One question that I am absolutely finalized on is again Sergeant 13, the same guy who won the last AMA's best question. The question that I will be tagging right now. So that's the first question I liked, and I think Steven, if you liked any questions in particular, would you also like to pick some? Because I don't want to pick all the questions. I just
there was one question about the US backing. Like if we are back to the US dollar, then
that's the same question I picked. You have to pick something else now.
It would be whatever you guys choose, honestly.
Oh, you want us to choose? Well, I can't help you there. I'm just the host. This is for you guys to decide.
Okay. Yeah, so it'll be great if we can get a list of questions and
absolutely. Check the pinned messages. Scroll through the pinned messages. It'll be the little push pin in the top right of the Wolf microphone diamond.
Yeah. Okay, once I got it.
Yeah,
wow! All right.
Like I said, there were a lot that I could not get to. God bless this community. I love every single one of you.
Okay, so give me a moment, guys. I'm just going to. So we need 5 questions, yeah. So one is already chosen.
We actually maxed out our pins. We are not allowed to pin any more questions than we have already pinned. We maxed it out.
Yeah.
I am shocked and amazed. Well played, Wolves.
Yeah, amazing, guys.
There's still 87 people on the chat who's going to get 10 Maha each. That's a total of 870 Maha.
Oh yeah, and I think we just planned it right now. We didn't even think about doing this before.
All right. Nexus, there's someone on the chat saying that their questions were asked on Twitch. So if you'd like to nominate the questions from Twitch, you can pick a question that you like from Twitch.
Okay, so
I would be happy to nominate Luju Simple's question. I would absolutely be happy to nominate that because the question was, how does Arth plan on fighting its competitors? I thought that was an excellent question.
Yeah, and there's also the question by Lucas about the translations, which was really cool. But honestly, I don't want to really pick and choose questions because everyone's questions were fantastic. This is such an active community.
Yes, I would also actually nominate Blaise Celine's question from Twitch, who is in the chat letting me know how salty he or she is.
Hold on. Wait, what was the reward for the best questions? Like I forget how much did we plan to give out?
That's a good question. Let's go back and look.
I think that was $50 per best question, $300 in all. So
okay. So we've chosen 3. Could we just give, I don't know, again, $10 to all the guys that have asked questions? I don't want to really pick and choose, the who get the best question or not. So it'll be great to just reward everyone in some way or form. So
we can the 3 people get something special, or
yeah, so we can give these 3 guys 50 and then $50 worth of Maha, and everybody else $10 of Maha. Again, this is not planned, just for you guys, and happy to do that.
Yes. So
Yep, great. So I think Cybness, if you could just make a list of all the people who asked questions,
Yes.
we can go from there.
And if the two people who I nominated from Twitch are not in the Discord, if you would please join the Wolves of Alt Street Discord from the respective links, we will be happy to make sure you get your rewards.
Right. Thank you guys. Thank you for having us.
Oh, yes. Thank you all so much for joining us for this. This has been yet another Ask Me Anything with the Wolves of Alt Street. As the host, my name is Nexus. I would like to thank my entire team for helping to put this entire thing together. The team at MahaDAO for joining us, Steven and Josh. I would like to thank Cybens for helping me very much. Mr. V, Floppa, you know who you are, Trippy, Praisen, and anyone else I'm forgetting, the Arbiter's crew, Raisin, Fishison. I love all of you guys, and to everyone I'm forgetting, you know who you are. You're a part of the Wolves of Alt Street, and we're here to investigate all the coolest projects and make as much money as we possibly can while actually working to change the world for the better. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure, as always, to host this. We are going to be heading out now. Thank you all so very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you again. You can. Bye.
Bye-bye.